The New York Rangers lose in a shootout 3-2 to the Colorado Avalanche in the return of Alexandar Georgiev. So within a week's span, you have the return of David Quinn, who wins his first win as Sharks head coach, 3-2 in overtime, and then Alex Georgiev, 3-2 in the shootout. So, and Georgiev played well. It's frustrating. Georgiev had 44 saves, which maybe that's misleading. I mean, it's a lot of saves, but he did play well, and you can tell he was pumped up, and that's frustrating. I mean, whereas with Quinn, the fans they booed him. I didn't really quite understand that, and I didn't agree with that. But Georgiev, not a big Georgiev fan. He basically acted like he won the Stanley Cup, and it's understandable why it meant a lot to him. It is, and the fans were, I guess, rough on him. I'm not sure how zeroed in on that he was, but he never seemed like a team guy. It seemed like he pouted quite often, and Igor was clearly better than him. And we'll see what Georgiev does with Colorado. I have my doubts that he's going to take them to the promised land. But then again, it's not as if Darcy Kemper was amazing for Colorado last year. They have a good enough team where even if Georgiev struggles, they'll probably go pretty deep. But this was a pretty good game. It's technically a 3-game losing streak for the Rangers, which we did not see too often last season. To be fair, I guess there was a 3-game losing streak at the end of the year, which made sense just because they were one of the games they lost to Montreal. They didn't even care. They basically rested the whole team. So I won't even count that. And there was one earlier in the season last year where they did lose a couple within that 3-game losing streak. There was a couple of OT/shootout losses. But still, I mean, this game I'm okay with the result, and I'm okay with the way that it was played. But it's the previous games that you shouldn't have lost, Sharks and Blue Jackets. But look, I do still think that there's some problems ahead for this Ranger team. Chris Kreider has really, really been bad. I'd been kind of talking about that, but tonight, it really hit a point where he was horrendous. I mean, the puck dies on his stick. Look, he's never been a great passer, and he's never been all that skilled, but Gallant forces it too. I mean, in overtime, you should be starting. You certainly should be starting Panarin over Kreider in the 3-on-3, but then also just go Trocheck. I mean, Trocheck is very good on faceoffs. Vinny Trocheck is starting to improve very much so as a Ranger. Where I was excited about the signing, but early on I wasn't. I think it took him some time, but I like what I'm seeing, and it should be Trocheck and Panarin. Or at least have Trocheck take the face off and then bring Zibanejad out there. To have Kreider start at 3-3 makes no sense. I'm not going to get too hung up on that. Overtime is a little bit different. But either way, Chris Kreider, you knew that he wasn't going to do what he did last year. That was the most obvious thing in the world. But will he completely revert back to who he was? It seems like he might. It's super early, right? I mean, it's only, 7 games into the season at this point? Right, Rangers at 3-2-2. Yeah, we're 7 games in. So, I mean, it is early. And I'm sure Kreider will get going. But he's someone that, is worth keeping an eye on because it hasn't been good. And really, if the options were better, I'd really want him to be demoted line-wise. But you don't really have that many great options. You don't. And, Philip Hedl being out sucks. It seems like Hedl will be out at least a week. I think it's a concussion. And so, who knows? It could be longer than that. Certainly. Libor Hayek was in for Zach Jones tonight. He was okay in limited minutes. With Hayek in there, the Schneider-Hayek pair barely played. It was basically exclusively the top 4. And they acquitted themselves fine. They did. But Igor was really good, makes one really bad mistake, which we'll talk about, where he gets a little bit too aggressive, but yeah, I look at this Ranger lineup, and there is a lot of dead weight towards the bottom. I just mentioned Hayek, but forwards-wise, Ryan Reeves is completely useless. Just is. Ryan Carpenter, not impressed by Ryan Carpenter at all. And Vitaly Kravtsov, yeah, I mean, just not a whole lot going on there for Kravtsov. In his short time in 2021, I was more impressed by what I saw then than now. Not a whole lot of speed. I understand he's not playing with the best line mates, but for Vitaly Kravtsov, I need to see more. Jimmy Vesey with a nice bounce back effort. I felt like he had a rough start to his year, but tonight, makes an impact. Barclay Goodrow, pretty good job too, filling in for Phil Hedl. I thought Goodrow did a nice job, and he's had a nice enough start to the year. But the Rangers do lose it 3-2 to the Colorado Avalanche. Let's talk about what happened. And early on, you get a Capo Caco hooking penalty, and it comes back to bite as the Colorado Avalanche score a power play goal. The Rangers special teams let them down. And that's been a thing lately. The Rangers special teams, which is a big factor as to why they did well last year, has not been as good to start this year. I think it was Ryan Carpenter was a part of that as far as not getting it out. I think it was Carpenter that kind of lost a board battle. And eventually, Nichushkin just wide alone in front. Miller and Trouba just let him kind of sit there, and Nichushkin, with the deflection, already 7 goals in the year for Valeri Nichushkin, assisted by Makar and McKinnon, gives Colorado a 1-0 lead. Then, just pure ridiculousness and a joke by the NHL. Alexis Lafreniere is called for a high sticking penalty at 15-11. Now, the rule is that this can be reviewed if it's a 4-minute penalty, which, like, that in of itself is so dumb. So you can review it if it's if they barely bleed. You can review it if it's a double minor, but if it's just a regular 2-minute high sticking penalty, it can't be. And they did review it anyway. They wasted 5 to 10 minutes anyway, and still they came back and they said, yep, not part of the rules. We cannot technically change a 2-minute call. That rule has to be changed. That's embarrassing. Like, how could one approve that? That's crazy to me. Luckily, the Rangers do kill it off. At the 20-minute mark, it's old pal Dryden Hunt taking an interference penalty on Sammy Blais. Dryden Hunt didn't play a whole lot. He has a very minimal role in Colorado. Takes that penalty. Rangers start out with a power play in the second period. Nothing's going. And then Trouba takes a stupid hooking penalty. It was just pointless. Mikko Rantanen had Trouba. We've seen Trouba have issues at the blue line offensively where he loses the puck and it leads to problems the other way. He should have just let him go because it's not like if you're going to do that, take him down. Because he ends up he gets the power play and then he gets a clear on breakaway, but Igor makes the save on Rantanen. But Mikko Rantanen would get his revenge later on. So we are, in a 1-0 game. Rangers do kill off that penalty. Then at 13-10, JT Compher hooks Alexis Lafreniere. No dice for the Rangers. However, the Rangers do tie up the game at 18:06. A nice passing play, and it's Barclay Goodrow on a nice pass from Trouba. Sammy Blais also gets an assist. And with less than 2 minutes in the second period, the Rangers tied up at 1. And to make things better, they actually get a power play where Manson holds Panarin. This power play goes into the third period, and then it gets bad, where the power play isn't doing much, and then Igor gets a little too aggressive, and he puts himself in a vulnerable position, turns over the puck, is out of position. Cogliano steals it, and it's a goal for Logan O'Connor. O'Connor's first goal of the season at 59 seconds of the third, a shorthanded goal gives Colorado a 2-1 lead. But the Rangers are able to tie it up, and it's the Harvard connection. It is a goal by Adam Fox from Jimmy Vesey and Barclay Goodrow. So make that 2 points of the night for Goodrow. And Fox with an easy tap-in on a nice pass by Vesey. Fox really made the play happen. Fox caused the turnover, goes down the ice. He deserved to score that goal. Ties it up at 14:03. And we go to overtime. And what I don't understand is in overtime, just Chris Kreider, there's too much of that. And Mika has now struggled a bit lately too, where Mika was off to a hot start. I'm fearful that now Zibanejad, we know how streaky he is, he's been pretty bad lately. He doesn't look good. And so I would break up Kreider and Zibanejad if it were me, but I understand the options aren't great. But yeah, they were on for a lot in that overtime. And eventually the Rangers get a power play as Panarin, who was just, Artemi Panarin, even though there's going to be defensive miscues, and there have been for Artemi, like I wish he was a little bit better in that regard. He's really had some good jump and has been really, really solid this season. I like, he's been a threat the whole time. And Panarin is hooked by McKinnon, so the Rangers have a power play, a 4-on-3, for the duration of the overtime, a minute and 30 seconds left. and they don't score. And that's a big missed opportunity. You have a 4-on-3, you have the big boys on the ice, but they can't score. We go to the shootout. Rangers have last licks, which I like, but it didn't work out. The order is kind of interesting, and I don't think it had anything to do with it. Mika kind of gets hurt at the end of the overtime. I think he'll be okay, but Zibanejad gets hurt. So anyway, McKinnon starts it out, misses, just a flat miss, shoots it wide. Then Kakko with a pretty weak attempt. I mean, Kakko has been part of the top three. Usually he goes third, I feel, but Kakko goes first, and it's a save by Georgiev, not a good attempt. Then Makar, nice save by Igor. Then Mika, a weak attempt by Mika Zibanejad. I mean, Mika, we're used to him having really, he's great in the shootout, always has been. That was weak, and Georgiev makes the save. Then Mikko Rantanen goes in and just snipes it. Good job by Rantanen, scores past Igor, and then Panarin needs to score to keep it alive. He does. Artemi Panarin, continues to be successful even in the shootout, ties it up. We go to the fourth round, and it's frickin' Evan Rodriguez, who really was very good for the Pittsburgh Penguins last year against the Rangers. I mean, he almost had, when you think, if the Rangers don't tie that up in Game 7, Evan Rodriguez would have had the game-winning goal. If Pittsburgh ends up winning that, holds on, and the Rangers don't score. But anyway, Rodriguez makes I wish Igor was a little more patient. Whereas I can't really kill him, really for any other goal tonight. Obviously, the O'Connor goal was just a bad job in terms of puck handling. But the Rodriguez goal, he bit a little too hard, and Rodriguez scores. Then Lafreniere tries to tie it up, and Georgiev makes the save, and Georgiev was pretty fired up about it. It's just hard to like Alexandar Georgiev from a Rangers perspective. It really is. Don't like him. Really don't. He bothers me. Like I said, felt like he was never a team guy, and was really hoping that we could, score a lot more goals against him. It didn't happen. This isn't a shocking result because, like I said, with what happened with David Quinn, this happens where players return to MSG and do really well, and you saw that here. So it's a quick turnaround for the Rangers. They will face the New York Islanders tomorrow at Belmont. So the Rangers and the Islanders will be hungry. This is going to be a tough game, I feel. The Islanders have lost a bit lately. They're a little bit fresher. Rangers are coming off a pretty, intense, tough game against Colorado. So we'll see what they do. I hope it's Igor, but it might be Halak. But if it is, then why did you go with Halak against Columbus? So I think that there's a chance it's Igor, based on the fact that Halak went on Sunday against Columbus. But Igor was worked pretty hard in this game.